Hi, everyone. I'm Carl Bierock. Welcome back to the Jaguar Football Podcast. With us today is the head coach of Seckman Football, Dr. Nicholas Bear. Coach Bear, great to see you. A lot to talk about today on the podcast, so I can't wait to get started. Wanted to just check in, get the pulse, see how you, the players, the coaches are doing.
First, today's my first day back at work for my real job, teacher. Officially teachers start tomorrow, but I'm sure little known fact, we actually get, if we come in a day early or work one of these extra 5 work days, we get a $360 stipend. So I'm not passing up 360 bucks. So I'm in the office today, grinding away on rosters, paperwork, doing a lot of video trainings, not only for football coaching and concussions and things like that, but also going through all my sexual harassment videos, just like everybody out there with real jobs. So
Yeah,
that's been my day today. I've been living on the computer, looking forward to getting out to the field here in a little bit this afternoon.
Yeah, that's where the real fun is. Truth be
Mhm.
told, our compliance, we had trainings that were due today, and our bosses were pinging on us to make sure it all got done. So I know
Yep.
how you feel there. Coming up on the podcast today, we have a lot to dig into. First of all, get an update on practice. We had a full week of practice after a dead week under our belt. Also, talk about the blue and gold game and the picnic. That's always a great milestone and just a great opportunity for the community to get together. So, wanted to get your thoughts around that. And then, before you know it, you're going to be prepping for the big week, kickoff week against Oakville. So, a lot to talk about. Let's just jump into the offseason update. So, Coach, you had a week of practice. You're going to start your second week. Wanted to get your thoughts. Where do you see things stacking up and shaking out like you and the other coaches were hoping for?
Yeah, we had a great first week of practice. Anytime you officially start, there's a lot of buzz, a lot of excitement. The kids are excited to get back to it. Coaches are, and we put together a really solid week. Building up towards our blue and gold game on Saturday, and it's kind of one of those things going into this week. This is kind of that. It's a tough week. You don't want to get lost in that fog, right? We've had camp for 2 weeks. We've been working all summer. We had a full week of practice. We practiced 6 days in a row. We'll never practice 4 days. We won't practice 5 days in a row again the rest of the year. The most we'll practice in a row now is 4. So, football, we practiced 6 days in a row. This is the week where you could have that lull. You can have that setback. Guys kind of get lost in that fog of, man, I'm tired of being out here. I'm ready to play a football game. So it's going to be really important this week as we get out to the practice field to bring a sense of urgency. You can't get lost in that fog. You got to come to practice focused, ready to get better. And even though Oakville is still a couple weeks away, you have to stay motivated. So that's always the challenge going into this week. Now, certainly, it's a little fun this week. Obviously, we'll finish Friday night at our jamboree at Festus, at 6 p.m. So hopefully everybody can come on out and kind of take a look at the team. Against some different opponents, we'll be playing Farmington again, which we've kind of already seen. If you weren't at our contact camp, you're going to see how fast Farmington goes. They're going to run a play about every 8 seconds, and it's going to be a challenge to get our defense rotated into the game. But hey, it is what it is. That's how they roll. That's how they do it. We like to take our time a little bit and use all 25 or 40 seconds, whichever one we get. And then we'll play Poplar Bluff. We actually have been seeing them in the Jamboree the last couple years. Farmington Bluff both going to be kind of spread teams, spread zone, and try to get you into space. And then a team we haven't seen yet. Actually, it's been I would say 4 or 5 years. Festus, the host school. So we're actually going to get a chance to play Festus. I think I saw they're maybe like the sixth ranked large school in the St. Louis area right now. They put together a lot of good seasons the past couple years, deep playoff runs, and be a good little measuring stick for our guys Friday night.
Yeah, Coach, I remember you telling me about this time last year. We're building up to the start of the season and having this type of jamboree. It's hard to like game plan for three other teams all in just
Right.
one evening. So I was wondering if you tell us a
Well,
little bit about that. What
Yeah,
goes
it's
into it?
certainly challenging. With these three teams, they're all very similar styles as far as wanting to kind of spread you out 2 by 2, 3 by 1. Festus might have a little bit more of a power run game downhill. We have quite honestly haven't watched him much. A couple assistant coaches are familiar with their coaches, but last year we had to play Capital City and they run the triple option, right? And it's like, well, we didn't really game plan for triple option against Cap City. So then, hey, that was pretty tough. It's kind of the same flip side for us. Teams are going to come out. We're a little bit different. If a team sees us and two other spread teams, how much do you really want to spend game planning? And typically, it's not very much. We'll talk a little bit about our opponents this week. But our main focus is still on us, and obviously we've already started incorporating some Oakville stuff as well. So, and jamborees are one of those things. I know everybody. Do you win a jamboree? Do you lose a jamboree? Everybody's certainly going to count the touchdowns and things like that. But ultimately, as coaches, we're not trying. We scored this many more. We beat them. We're still trying to get guys in games. We have competitions at positions. We still got some things, kinks we want to work out, plays we make sure we run. Our offense is going to be run on a script. And we'll kind of we'll have specific plays that we're running because we want to see them. So, it's 3rd and 12 and we run power. Well, that's what we had scheduled to run because we're trying to, one, maximize the amount of touches each of our guys get. We got a lot of backs in the backfield, a lot of receivers. We want to get comfortable with the football, so we got to make sure everybody's touching it. It's a great way to kind of get a new opponent, but what you don't want to get lost in the did we win it, did we lose it, things like that.
Yeah, and I'm wondering too, Coach, would there be any parallels to the teams that you're going to be playing on Friday to some of the newer teams that we'll be playing? Yeah, I don't want to say the first time, maybe some of them are,
Right.
but to our new schedule and new conference.
Yeah. I would say we'll get a chance to really put a couple of our defensive adjustments and the little tiny things that we're doing new to the test a little bit on Friday night and kind of really see how they work out and our kids play in space.
Yeah, and then also one of the things I ask you to expand upon, you were talking about how like the rosters and you want to get a look at the backs, you want to get a look at
Mhm.
wide receiver. I imagine that there's still some, 50-50 either way with maybe like a position being locked down or not.
Yeah, then that's really kind of this is kind of that final test that where we got to start making some, and we have a pretty good idea at a lot of positions, but the jamboree is there are some guys that are battling it out and still have a lot to prove and still have a lot to show, and whether it's a guy trying to go from third group to second group or second group to first group or somebody's trying to hold on to that first group spot, there's still a lot to be proven when we get out there Friday night.
Sounds good. We definitely look forward to it. And Coach, in your emails, you ask the community, so to speak, for just 2 Saturdays a year. So we have 52
Mhm.
weeks in a year. You just asked for 2 of them. Great event on Saturday, the annual Blue Gold game. Wanted to get your thoughts. You mentioned in your email you saw some good things or some things that you felt like we still need to work on as we get ready for
Mhm.
week 1. Just one in its totality, wanted to get your thoughts about the day.
Yeah, overall, it's always just it's a fun day. It's a great day, and quite honestly, I need to probably in the future do a better job of really soaking it all in, right? Because when you're out there and you're trying to plan it all and make sure everything fits into the right pieces, and you're trying to get guys on the field, off the field, trying to make sure everything that's not football related is where it needs to be. I have a hard time sometimes really slowing it down, which I need to do a better job at. But it's just a fun morning. Um, people haven't seen each other in a while. Maybe families are only see each other during football, get to see each other again, and haven't seen each other all summer. And it's the excitement, the buzz, and really the first opportunity for players to kind of show off in front of their parents in the community. And oh, who's going to catch the ball this year? Who's going to throw it? Who's going to do this, that? And this is a great opportunity to kind of really start seeing the team. And then it's always fun to get the JV out there and the freshmen, and you can kind of really see the levels that we're operating at, and kind of ultimately when these guys get to varsity, what we want it to look like. So, I thought it was a great day. I thought the football was good. Obviously with the technique and the schemes, there's still a lot of things we got to get better at going into week one. I thought we conducted ourselves pretty well. My thing is, and trying to teach these young guys too, like, man, football's supposed to be fun. When we would score and I would look around and everybody was like, the freshmen don't know how to act. The JV doesn't really guys. I told them at the end, like, why are we here? Like, ultimately, why are we practicing and spending all this time and doing all the sacrifices? For me, the answer is because I enjoy what I do and it's a good time and it's fun. So ultimately, when we achieve the goal of scoring or getting a three and out, it's okay to celebrate. It's okay to run down and get into the end zone and have some fun with your buddies. So that's that's kind of a piece that we're going to talk about a little bit more going into this week, and kind of after I've had a chance to talk to the team about it, we'll talk a little bit more maybe on here. But that's kind of where I want to see this team improve. And we there's been times where we forgot, and quite honestly, and we've talked a little bit about before. There's been times the last few years where we forgot what it felt like to lose, or we forgot what it felt like to not score points. I specifically remember, man, it might have been 2 years ago. I think we were at Hazelwood West at home a couple years ago, or maybe away, or Parkway South, one or the other, and we had scored, and all of a sudden the only person standing in the end zone was the guy that scored, and everybody else had their heads down walking off the field. And I'm just like, what kind of monster have we created? As far as like, what do you mean? Like, don't take scoring points for granted. Don't scoring touchdowns for granted. Get in the end zone, celebrate with your buddies. Ultimately, that's the goal. So, we'll get that, and that just kind of comes with getting comfortable with your teammates and being comfortable. Oh, okay, it's okay to, to enjoy ourselves and have fun out here. So that's kind of where I want to see the biggest improvement from our team going into this week.
Yeah, I can tell you the view from the stands. This was my sixth blue and gold game. And number one, I think the weather, this was the best as far as the weather goes. Normally we're out there roasting in direct sunlight. So it was nice to have the cloud cover. It's just, and you hit it, like the buzz, people talking
Mm-hmm.
about, just where things are going for varsity, JV, and the freshmen coming in. It was just a good time. Like, football is back, and just people were talking about it not only at the game, but also at the picnic afterwards. And so,
Mm-hmm.
Coach, I didn't know if there was anything else you wanted to say about the blue gold game in particular. But again, we certainly thank our coaches, we thank the players, we thank the parents, we thank the community, and our sponsors that came out that made a really, really nice morning of football.
Yeah, it's just great getting everybody together for sure, and not have the stress of trying to win or lose a football game.
Yeah. And Coach, want to bring back one of the old favorites. We would have your coaches clicker, and
Mm-hmm.
you talk about the viral plays. We have the B Dub. I remember talking to you about that a couple years ago. We had the Rhino play. I saw something new out there. Didn't quite know what to make of it, and geez Louise, Coach, if I'm not mistaken, I thought I saw you with the football. So it was quite an interesting little day there.
Yeah.
Wondering if you could walk us through it. So we have a little progression of what happened. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I was, watching my player on defense, and then you'll see in the progression, I was a little worried for you, Coach, to be honest.
Right. Yeah, a lot of times I find myself standing behind the offense and kind of watching the play, and all of a sudden, Aaron snap, and it just kind of ends up right in my hands, and what, the instincts just kind of kicked in. I think Toby Key said it best. I ain't as good as I once was, but I'm as good once as I ever was. uh, and that's kind of how it went. I think I've lost a couple steps, but the instincts kicked in, and it was time to hit the hole and go. You got a couple pictures putting up here. If I was going to kind of break this down, I really wasn't sure how the freshmen were going to react. I don't really like the ball security here, Carl. The nose of the football is down. That first orange cap is that first defender, and I kind of gave him a nice little shaky shake. Was able to cut it outside a little bit, and then I kind of got my eyes downfield, and there's the move right there. There's the move right there, and I've got my whistle in my mouth. I've got my headset on. I've got the script in my left hand. So I was kind of, my stiff arm, my patented stiff arm. I couldn't quite utilize it, but I'm setting up the blockers in front of me. And once again, ball security, not very good there. I got to get that ball high and tight.
Looks like you made it to the second
better.
level on this picture.
Yeah, if I get past that first defender, get past that second level, now you can see that ball's high and tight. And then this is kind of where I'm eyeing down the freshman corner. And, I'm kind of faced with two choices. Do I lower his shoulder and run him over? Or, do I try to hurdle him? And, my right hamstring's tightening up about this moment. And I think I got maybe an inch off the ground on my hurdle. And he tackled me. Good for that little guy, for sure.
Yeah,
Pretty sure it was Matthias Hayes. I probably won't let him forget that one.
No, Coach, I was worried about the lineman.
I need some help out there.
Yeah, I was looking at the pictures and he had that look in his eye. I was like, oh man, is he really going to hit the coach or not? That's that business decision he would have to make.
Hey, good on that kid. Good on him. That kid. Hey, I'm going to say them freshman DBs are not scared. They were sticking their nose in there on Saturday. And hey, if you want to take down the coach barreling at you, hey, I had the whistle. I could have called the play dead at any moment. So.
Yep, and that's the last one in the sequence there. But no, it was a lighthearted moment, and it seems like the folks enjoyed it, and looks like you enjoyed it as well.
Yeah, it was a good time. It was good fun. I mean, like I said, that's kind of what the whole day is about. Clearly, I would much rather prefer the snap go into our freshman quarterback's hands and not into my lap when I'm standing 5 yards behind him. But yeah, no, it was good fun.
Yeah. Well, we'll get there, Coach. We'll get there, like you talked about at the beginning of the podcast. And so that leaves us, 5 days of practice. By the time this comes out, we'll just be down to 4. Getting ready for week 1. So, I imagine a lot goes in it. Can you just walk us through like what you and the coaches do, like on, leading up to game day for that week?
Well, a lot of times, you play an unfamiliar opponent in week 1 because that's typically our non-conference game. So, in previous seasons, we've played Washington my first year. We played DeSoto the next 2 years. We played Valley the next 2 years. The last 2 years, we played Parkway West. So, it's always been kind of a team that's kind of on our schedule, off our schedule, we're not as familiar with. So, when you're trying to study up for a week 1 opponent, you're looking at all of last year's tape and learning about as much as you can about that opponent. And, throughout the summer, you're incorporating a little bit more than your base opponents. But, this year with us playing, we're no longer in Oakville's conference, but we are scheduled to play them in a non-conference game. Obviously, we've played them 5 times in the last 3 seasons. There's not much either of us are going to do that the other team doesn't know about. So, it's our preparation for this one is a little bit different. I'm sure they're running a bunch of single wing at their guys this week. You have really an extra week of preparation going into this week 1 games, and sometimes, into the summer. And we already started last week putting some Oakville stuff in. So, you get a little bit longer to prepare, but the difference here is we're so familiar with them. Obviously they have new players, and we think there's going to be a few attributes on a few of their guys that they're going to use that they haven't done in the past, and obviously us the same way. So you're just kind of really playing a guessing game with some of the new stuff going into week 1, but mainly with this one, we have a pretty solid idea. It would be like playing Fox week 1. Well, we know what's coming. So it's definitely interesting. It's a little less, stressful on the uncertain end of it. What are they going to do? What are they, obviously things like that. What defense are they going to run? But with Oakville, it gets a little bit simpler.
Well, we're going to dig into it more because once the season starts, actually starting next week, or from here on out, this podcast will go weekly. So we'll dig in a little bit more. But appreciate you giving some insight about what goes on leading up to game day, because it does take a lot of work. Also, what we want to remind everybody, we are on Spotify and also on Apple Podcasts, so you can take this podcast on the go. Also, be sure to check out our social media channels. We have our Facebook page and our YouTube channel. And Coach, we do have some, thanks to our sponsors, some special things going on. Cecil Whitaker's Pizza is giving a discount after practice. And then we have at the Mom's practice on Saturday, Star Cafe will be doing a fundraiser for us. So a lot going on. So you want to check out that those social media channels. And Coach, here we are. You're back, as you said, to kind of like your day job in a way. Wanted to give you the floor. I know there was a couple shout outs that you wanted to make, and just have you take us out as we finish up the last week of practice.
Yeah, as we get closer to the year, football and things like that, I get a lot of opportunities to spread the good word of Seckman football. And I think it was last week, I sat down with STL Live and Ray, in their studio and got a chance to talk about the season. So I think, Carl, you posted that one, didn't you?
Correct. That one's out there. I do have a little bone to pick. You broke the news about your parking spot on their show as opposed to ours, but we'll let it slide.
Yeah, well, that one caught me right off the guard there. Now, that did make it all the way back to my bosses. So now I know when I do have a grievance, I know where to air it.
Yeah.
To where it gets back to people. But my dad always says I don't know if you've heard this before, Carl, but the squeaky wheel gets the grease.
Yep.
I mean, all four wheels are trugging along. They've all worked the same amount, but the only wheel that's going to get the grease is the one that starts squeaking. So if you want something, you got to say something. Now, the parking spot's not changing. They've got bigger fish to fry now that everybody's complaining about the student parking. Why is the maintenance vehicle in the middle of the parking lot? I still don't have an answer for that, Carl. I don't know.
Well, I take it as you still have a spot. So
yes, the old ball coach just has to walk about 25 extra feet into the building every day. So I'll be okay.
All right.
I'll be okay. My wife didn't give me too much sympathy, so.
Like I said, I was just hurt that the breaking news was on their show. Love those folks to death. Great people out there.
Yes.
I was hoping to save that little nugget for this podcast, but all good, Coach.
But yeah, other shout out kind of news. We're always talking about our guys, our athletes, and supporting them and helping them get to the next level. It was good to see our quarterback Brody Kube made a commitment to play baseball at Jeffco. After this year. So, another college baseball multi-sport athlete on our football team and good for Brody. I always think I don't know much. I know more about football recruiting, than I do about baseball recruiting. But we've talked about recruiting here before too. I mean, you got all these teams now basically bringing in 21, 22, 23-year-old transfers compared to 18-year-old, basically, they're men, but not compared to 23-year-olds. So in my mind, anytime an athlete can go use the A+ program, go to junior college for free, continue to develop in the weight room, hone his skills on the baseball field, develop some power in the bat. 2 years from now, who knows where those opportunities are going to take him. So I'm excited for him. I'm sure, as a young athlete, it's nice to have that stress off your back, stress off your chest. Hopefully that's the case for him. And now he can kind of really lock in and be focused on his senior year, which, all signs, to this point that he is. So, happy for him, happy for his mom and dad, and obviously wish nothing for the best for him. And then, kind of going into that, hey, football's going to be played on Fridays this year, obviously at the high school level, a lot of football being played on Saturdays, and a lot of our former guys still out there playing college football. Just off the top of my head, Quincy University, Division II Quincy, we have Zach Hudson, Division II Central Missouri State, the Mules. Caden Lappy. Um, if you go to Missouri Baptist, we got Tommy Gabar and Trent Enlow, along with Caleb Niebuhr. And then obviously we still have our SEMO boys, Anthony Westervelt and Cole Rubel, at Southeast Missouri State, the Division I level. So, and Robert Frank, excuse me, in his senior year, fifth year senior at McKendree University. So, a lot of opportunity. I think that was 7 or 8 guys I just listed to watch former Jaguars play on Saturdays and continue to follow them. So excited for those guys. I'm sure, I haven't connected with all of them. But I'm sure they're hard at work and in the middle of their fall camps too.
Great, coach. I always love to hear the stories about the folks, the players that once they leave the program, they continue on, or in Brody's case, he's playing another sport, and we appreciate his contributions, not only on the football field, but the baseball field as well. So exciting. I know you always talk about the multi-sport athlete, and that's living proof right there. Coach, yep. I want to make sure we're respectful of your time. Anything else as we get closer to the Jamboree on Friday, or we'll leave it there and regroup again next week?
Yeah, so, it's about time to start printing the practice schedules and getting the footballs out and heading out to practice here. So going to be a long night when I throw in the varsity practice, followed directly by junior Jaguar practice. And then officially first day back for teachers tomorrow. So I get to sit in some exciting meetings. Mr. Sauer, if you're listening, I cannot wait.
And I think we'll just leave it at that, Coach. We'll leave it at that. So always a pleasure talking with you. Fun time this weekend. Can't wait to reconnect after the Jamboree as we get closer and closer to kickoff. So, Coach, best of luck to you and the players and your staff as you round out this week, and we'll catch you next week.
Thanks, Carl.
Thank you.